The stars looked the same as always through the thick glass of the ship's main window. Yuna pressed her face against the cold surface and watched them twinkle in the endless black of space. She had been doing this job for 3 years now, listening to radio signals from deep space. Most days, she heard nothing but static and the occasional burst from a distant star. The research ship Harmony's Edge was not very big. It had a crew of only 12 people, and they spent most of their time looking for minerals on empty planets. Yuna's job was to monitor all the radio frequencies while they traveled. The ship's computer could do most of the work, but humans were better at hearing patterns that machines might miss. Captain Jinho walked into the communication room. He was a short man with gray hair who always looked tired. He had been flying ships in space for 20 years, and he knew how boring these long trips could be. "Anything interesting today?" he asked Yuna. "Just the usual noise," she replied, adjusting her headphones. "Some radio waves from that red star we passed yesterday, but nothing special." Jinho nodded and was about to leave when a strange sound came through Yuna's headphones. It was very faint, like a whisper in a crowded room. She quickly turned up the volume and started recording. "Wait," she said to Jinho. "There's something here." The sound was not random static. It had a pattern, like someone tapping on a wall in a rhythm. Yuna had heard many strange sounds in space, but this was different. It sounded purposeful, like someone was trying to send a message. "Play it through the speakers," Jinho said. Bridge filled with a low humming sound that rose and fell in waves. Sometimes it was loud, sometimes quiet, but it never stopped completely. Embedded in the humming were sharp clicking sounds that came in groups of 3 or 5. Chief Science. Officer Minji heard the noise and came to see what was happening. She was younger than Jinho, but very smart. She had studied alien life for years, even though humans had never found any. "How long has this been going on?" Minji asked. "About 5 minutes," Yuna replied. "It's coming from the direction we're heading." Minji listened carefully to the pattern. Her eyes grew wide as she realized what she was hearing. "This isn't natural," she said quietly. "Stars and planets don't make sounds like this." "What do you mean?" Jinho asked. "Listen to the pattern. It repeats every 47 seconds, but with small changes each time. That's not how natural radio waves work. Someone is making this signal." Navigator Wu Jin joined them on the bridge. He was a big man who used to be a soldier before he became a spaceship pilot. He looked at the data on his screen and frowned. "The signal is coming from the Kepler 442 system," he said. "That's about 400 light-years from here." 400 light-years? Jinho said. "That would take us 3 months to reach, even with our fastest engines." "Captain," Minji said, "if this really is an alien signal, it could be the most important discovery in human history." Jinho thought about this. His ship was supposed to be studying asteroids in this part of space. They were already behind schedule, and the company that hired them would be angry if they took even longer. "It could just be some kind of space interference," he said. "We get false signals all the time." Yuna worked on her computer, trying to clean up the signal and make it clearer. After 20 minutes of work, she managed to separate the clicking sounds from the humming background. "Captain, you need to hear this," she said. The clicking sounds were now much clearer. They came in precise groups, with exact timing between each group. But what made everyone stop talking was what came next. Mixed in with the clicking were mathematical sequences, simple addition at first, then multiplication, then more complex equations. "That's not random," Minji said, excitement in her voice. "Someone is showing us they understand mathematics. This is how scientists always imagined aliens would first communicate with us. Wu Jin looked at the star charts on his navigation computer. Kepler 442 has 7 planets. 3 of them are in the zone where liquid water can exist. Are you seriously thinking about going there? Jinho asked. Captain, Minji said, this signal is incredibly weak. For us to hear it from 400 light-years away, whoever is sending it must be using enormous amounts of power. They're not just sending a casual message. This is someone calling for help. Yuna continued working on the signal. She discovered that it wasn't just repeating the same pattern. The mathematical sequences were getting more complex over time, and there were long parts that sounded almost like pleading. There's emotion in this signal, she said softly. I know that sounds crazy, but listen to how the timing changes. It's like someone is getting more desperate. The bridge fell silent except for the alien signal playing through the speakers. Each crew member was thinking about what this could mean. If there really were aliens out there, and they were asking for help, what should humans do? How long would it take us to get there? Jinho asked Wu Jin. With our current supplies and fuel, we could make it in about 11 weeks, but we'd have to skip all our scheduled stops. The mining company will fire us, Jinho said. Captain, Minji said, if we're right about this, the mining company will be the least of our worries. This changes everything. Jinho looked around at his crew. They were all young and excited about the possibility of meeting aliens. He was older and more careful. He knew that space was dangerous and that making sudden changes to their mission could put everyone at risk. But as he listened to the alien signal, he couldn't shake the feeling that Minji was right. The desperation in the pattern was clear, even across the vast distance of space. Someone out there needed help, and his ship might be the only one close enough to respond. Yuna, can you determine exactly where the signal is coming from? I'm working on it, Captain. Give me another hour and I should have precise coordinates. Jinho made his decision. Wu Jin, start plotting a course to Kepler 442. We're going to investigate this signal. The crew exchanged excited glances. They had no idea that this single decision would lead humanity into its first interstellar war, or that their small research ship would be the first to witness genocide among the stars. As the Harmony's edge changed course toward the alien signal, the universe became a much larger and more dangerous place. 11 weeks later, the Harmony's edge dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. The first thing they saw made everyone on the bridge gasp in shock. Floating in space around the third planet were thousands of metal pieces. They looked like parts of destroyed spaceships, but they were unlike anything humans had ever built. The metal was dark and twisted, as if it had been melted and then frozen again. My God, whispered Minji as she looked through the telescope. There was a battle here. Captain Jinho ordered all the ship's sensors to scan the area. What they found was even more disturbing. The debris wasn't just from 1 or 2 ships. It looked like the remains of an entire fleet. Captain, Yuna said from her station, I'm still picking up that distress signal. It's coming from the planet's surface. The planet below them was beautiful. It had blue oceans and green continents, with white clouds swirling in the atmosphere. But as they got closer, they could see dark spots on the surface where cities used to be. There are signs of bombing, Wu Jin reported. Large areas of the planet have been burned. Suddenly, a new voice came through their communication system. It was not human, but somehow their computer was able to translate it into English. Unknown ship. Please respond. We are the people of Ashkara. We need help. Minji grabbed the microphone with shaking hands. This was the moment humans had dreamed about for centuries. First contact with alien life. This is the Earthship Harmonies. Edge, she said slowly. We received your distress signal. We want to help. There was a long pause. Then the alien voice came back, filled with what sounded like relief and surprise. Earth? You are from another star? Please, we must speak with you. Our people are dying. Over the next few hours, Minji and Yuna worked to establish better communication with the aliens. They learned that the planet was called Ashkara, and its people were called the Volani. The Volani were very different from humans. When they finally saw images of them, the crew was amazed. The Volani looked like they were made of living crystal. They were tall and thin, with skin that sparkled like diamonds. Their leader, who called himself Thane Zilara, spoke to them through a video connection. We are a peaceful people, Thane Zilara explained. His voice was soft and musical. We have never fought wars. We spend our time growing plants and building beautiful cities. But then the Koreks came. Who are the Koreks? Jinho asked. Thane Zilara's crystal face darkened. They are an empire that rules many worlds. They travel from star to star, conquering planets and enslaving or killing the people who live there. They came to our world 6 months ago and demanded that we give them our terraforming technology. Terraforming technology? Minji asked. We know how to change dead planets into living worlds, Thane Zilara said. We can make plants grow on planets that have no life. It is our greatest achievement, and we use it to help other species. But the Koreks want to use it to make more worlds for themselves. Why don't you just give it to them? Wu Jin asked. Thane Zilara's body flickered with angry colors. Because they will use it to destroy other worlds. They told us they want to replace all the inferior species in the galaxy with their own people. We cannot help them commit genocide. The word genocide made everyone on the human ship feel cold. They were learning that the universe was much more dangerous than they had ever imagined. Chief Medical Officer Tae-hoon, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. How many Koreks are there? Their empire spans thousands of star systems, Thane Zilara said sadly. They have been conquering worlds for over 1,000 years. We are just the latest species they want to destroy. As if to prove his point, alarms suddenly started ringing on both ships. Yuna quickly checked her sensors and saw something that made her blood run cold. Captain, there are ships approaching. Big ones. 3 massive vessels appeared from behind the planet's largest moon. They were dark gray and covered with weapon ports. Each ship was 10 times larger than the Harmony's Edge. Koreks battle cruisers, Thane Zilara said quietly. You must leave now, before they destroy you too. But before the human ship could move, a harsh voice came through their communication system. The computer translated it, but even in English it sounded cruel and threatening. Unknown vessel, you will identify yourself immediately or be destroyed. Jinho took the microphone. This is Captain Jinho of the Earthship Harmony's Edge. We are explorers from another star system. Earth? The Koreks voice said. We have never heard of this world. You will surrender your ship for inspection. We are not involved in your conflict, Jinho said. We are just here to help injured people. The Koreks laughed, and it was a terrible sound. There are no injured people here, only rebels who refuse to surrender. You will leave this system immediately, or you will be classified as an enemy of the Koreks Empire. While this conversation was happening, Tae-hoon was watching his medical scanners. Suddenly he saw something that made him shout in horror. Captain, look at the planet. On the main screen, they could see a small Volani transport ship trying to escape from the planet's surface. It was filled with refugees, families with children, trying to get to safety. One of the Corex ships fired a single shot. The Volani. Transport exploded in a ball of fire, killing everyone on board. No! Thane Zilara cried out. Those were civilians, children! The Corex commander's voice came back, cold and emotionless. That is what happens to those who resist the Empire. Earth ship, you have seen our power. Leave now, or share their fate. The bridge of the Harmony's edge was completely silent. The crew had just watched aliens murder innocent people, including children, right in front of them. Minji was crying. Tae-hoon looked sick. Woo-jin was clenching his fists so hard his knuckles were white. You call this justice? Jinho said into the microphone. We call this order, the Corex commander replied. The strong rule the weak. That is the law of the universe. Your species looks weak, like the Volani. Do not make the same mistake they did. The 3 Corex ships moved closer to the human vessel. Their weapons were charging, ready to fire. Captain, Woo-jin said quietly, we should leave. We can't fight ships that big. Jinho looked at the screen showing Thane Zilara. The alien's crystal body was dim with grief. If you stay, they will kill you too, Thane Zilara said. Go back to your people. Tell them what you have seen here. Maybe someday, when your species is stronger, you can help us. Jinho made the hardest decision of his life. Woo-jin, prepare for faster-than-light travel. We're going home. As the Harmony's edge prepared to leave, the crew took one last look at the beautiful planet below. They were leaving behind an entire species facing genocide, and there was nothing they could do to help. But they were also carrying something back to Earth that would change everything. The knowledge that humanity was not alone in the universe, and that the universe was full of monsters. The Corex had made a critical mistake. They had let humans see their cruelty and live to tell others about it. They didn't know that humans had a very strong reaction to bullies, especially bullies who hurt children. The war had already begun, even though no one knew it yet. 2 days after leaving the Ashkara system, Captain Jinho made a decision that would prove the Corex wrong about humans being weak. Instead of heading straight home, he ordered the ship to stop at a safe distance and sent Woo-jin and Tae-hoon on. A secret mission. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with, Jinho told his crew. If we're going to warn Earth about the Corex, we need to understand their military capabilities. Woo-jin and Tae-hoon took a small scout ship back toward Corex. Space. Their mission was simple: observe and gather information. They were not supposed to engage the enemy or take any risks, but space missions rarely go according to plan. The scout ship's stealth technology was good but not perfect. After 3 days of watching Corex patrol routes and recording their ship, designs, a Corex destroyer detected them. Unknown vessel, stop immediately or be destroyed, came the familiar harsh Corex voice. Woo-jin tried to escape, but the Corex ship was faster. Within minutes, they were surrounded by 3 patrol vessels. A tractor beam pulled their scout ship into the cargo bay of the largest Corex destroyer. Well, Tae-hoon said, as armed Corex soldiers surrounded their ship. This wasn't part of the plan. The Corex soldiers were tall, covered in dark scales with 4 arms and yellow eyes. They wore heavy armor and carried weapons that hummed with energy. To them, the 2 humans looked small and weak. The soldiers dragged Woo-jin and Tae-hoon to a holding cell deep inside the ship. The cell was designed for Corex prisoners, which meant it was filled with toxic gas that helped Corex breathe better, but would poison most other species. "Interesting," said Commander Vexitar when he came to look at the prisoners. "What species are you?" "We're humans from Earth," Wu Jin replied, even though the gas was making his eyes water. "Earth!" Commander Vexitar made a note on his datapad. "Never heard of it. Must be some primitive world on the rim of the galaxy. What were you doing in our territory?" "Just exploring," Taehoon said. He was trying not to cough from the toxic air. Commander Vexitar laughed. "Exploring in a ship equipped with military-grade sensors and stealth technology. You were spying. The penalty for spying is death, but first you will tell us about your species and your world." What happened next surprised everyone, including the humans themselves. The Corex interrogation techniques were designed to break the will of most galactic species. They started by increasing the temperature in the cell to 60 degrees Celsius, hot enough to kill most aliens within hours. Wu Jin and Taehoon were uncomfortable, but they didn't die. They just took off their outer clothes and kept talking. "Remarkable," Commander Vexitar said to his science officer. "Most species would be dead by now. Increase the temperature." At 80 degrees Celsius, the humans were sweating heavily but still alive. The Corex science officer was taking detailed notes. "What kind of world do you come from?" Commander Vexitar asked. "Earth," Wu Jin said simply. "It gets pretty hot there sometimes." Next, they tried freezing the cell to minus 40 degrees Celsius. The humans shivered and complained, but they didn't freeze to death like most species would. "This is impossible," the Corex science officer said. "No species can survive both extreme heat and extreme cold." "You haven't met many humans," Taehoon replied through chattering teeth. The Corex tried other torture methods. They filled the cell with different toxic gases. They subjected the humans to crushing gravity that should have broken their bones. They exposed them to radiation levels that would kill most galactic species instantly. Nothing worked. The humans were hurt and uncomfortable, but they adapted to each new torture. Their bodies seemed to adjust to hostile conditions in ways that amazed and frightened their captors. "What is this Earth world like?" Commander Vexitar demanded. "Oh, it's a pretty nice place," Wu Jin said casually. "Though I guess it's a bit more dangerous than most planets." "Dangerous how?" Taehoon started listing things as if he was talking about the weather. "Well, there are poisonous animals everywhere. The air has oxygen, which is toxic to most life forms. The planet's gravity is pretty strong. We have radiation from our sun that causes cancer. Deadly storms that can destroy cities, earthquakes, volcanoes, killer diseases, predators that hunt in packs. And the weather," Wu Jin added. "In some places it gets so hot that water boils. In other places it gets so cold that the air itself turns to liquid. And then there are the hurricanes, tornadoes, blizzards, floods, droughts." The Corex science officer was writing frantically. "And your species evolved on this world?" "Sure," Taehoon said. "It's home." Commander Vexitar was beginning to understand what they were dealing with. "Computer, analyze the data and classify the planet these creatures call Earth." The computer's voice was emotionless. "Analysis complete. Planet classification. Deathworld. Threat level extreme. Inhabitants classified as natural-born killers." "Deathworld?" Wu Jin asked. "That seems a bit harsh," the science officer explained. "A death world is a planet so hostile that only the most dangerous life forms can survive there. Species that evolve on deathworlds become essentially living weapons. They can survive in environments that would instantly kill normal life forms. Huh, Taehoon said. We just call it Tuesday. Commander Vextar was no longer thinking about interrogation. He was thinking about the implications of meeting a species from a death world. If these two humans could survive Korek's torture methods, without even trying very hard, what would happen if their entire species decided to fight? How many humans are there? He asked quietly. Oh, about 8 billion, Wu Jin said casually. The color drained from Commander Vextar's scaly face. 8 billion Deathworld predators, and they had already seen what the Korek's empire did to innocent species. That night, while the Korek's were deciding what to do with their dangerous prisoners, Wu Jin put his military training to work, using techniques he had learned as a special forces soldier on Earth. He fashioned weapons from pieces of the cell walls. The metal that could withstand Korek's weapons was strong, but humans had been working with metal for thousands of years. Wu Jin knew how to break it, bend it, and turn it into tools. When the guards came to check on them the next morning, they found an empty cell and 2 unconscious Korek's soldiers. Wu Jin and Taehoon had escaped, taking with them detailed information about Korek's ship design, weapons, and most importantly, their growing fear of humanity. As they flew their stolen Korek's shuttle back toward human space, they didn't know that Commander Vextar was already sending urgent messages to the Korek's High. Command, we have encountered a new species, his report said. They call themselves humans, and they come from a death world. I recommend immediate military action to eliminate this threat before they become aware of their own power. But the Korek's High Command was busy with their genocide of the Vellani. They filed the report away for later consideration. It was a mistake that would cost them their empire. The emergency meeting of the United Earth Defense Council took place in a secure bunker beneath the Swiss Alps. Representatives from every nation on Earth sat around a massive table, their faces grim as they watched the recordings that Captain Jinho and his crew had brought back from Korek space. Fleet Admiral Sunho stood at the front of the room, his uniform decorated with medals from 30 years of military service. He had fought in every major conflict on Earth for the past 3 decades, but nothing had prepared him for this. Ladies and gentlemen, Admiral Sunho said, what you are about to see will change everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe. The lights dimmed, and the wall screen showed the crystal-skinned Vellani pleading for help. Then came the horrifying footage of Korek's ships destroying the refugee transport, killing innocent families without hesitation. Several council members gasped. Others sat in stunned silence. Defense Minister Haeun, a tough woman who had served in 3 wars, had tears in her eyes. This is genocide, she said quietly. They're systematically murdering an entire species. It gets worse, Admiral Sunho said. He played the recordings that Wu Jin and Taehoon had made during their capture. The Korek's spoke casually about destroying inferior species and conquering thousands of worlds. According to our analysis, Admiral Sunho continued, the Korek's empire spans nearly half the galaxy. They have been committing genocide for over 1,000 years. Hundreds of species have been completely wiped out. The Chinese representative raised his hand. Admiral, while this is certainly disturbing, it's happening hundreds of light years away. How does this affect Earth? Captain Jinho stepped forward. Sir, the Korek's commander specifically said they eliminate any species they consider inferior. They've never encountered humans before, but when they do, they'll classify us the same way they classified the Villani. Are you saying they'll attack Earth? Asked the Brazilian representative. Admiral Sunho activated another display showing a map of the galaxy. Our long-range sensors have detected massive Corex fleet movements. They're not just attacking the Villani. They're moving toward the galactic core, destroying every inhabited world in their path. Red dots appeared on the map, showing the path of destruction. There were dozens of them, each representing a dead world. At their current rate of expansion, Admiral Sunho said, they'll reach human space in approximately 50 years. Defense Minister Heian stood up. Then we have 50 years to prepare. No, said Dr. Minji, who had been invited as an expert on alien behavior. You don't understand the Corex mindset. They don't just conquer for territory. They enjoy the act of destruction itself. If they learn about Earth's location from any source, they'll come for us immediately. What do you mean? Asked the British representative. The Corex already know that humans exist, Minji explained. Commander Vexitar's report will eventually reach their high command. When it does, they'll realize that humans are from a death world, which makes us extremely dangerous by their standards. Admiral Sunho nodded grimly. Intelligence suggests that the Corex have a policy of eliminating any species that could potentially threaten their empire, regardless of whether that species has actually done anything hostile. The Russian representative leaned forward. What are you recommending, Admiral? We have two choices, Admiral Sunho said. We can hope that the Corex never find Earth and spend the next 50 years building defenses. Or we can take the fight to them now, while they're distracted with their current conquests. You're talking about war, said the Indian representative. Interstellar war against an empire that has conquered half the galaxy. Yes, Admiral Sunho said simply. I am. The room erupted in arguments. Some representatives called the idea insane. Others pointed out that Earth had never fought a space war before. A few suggested trying diplomacy first. Defense Minister Heian slammed her hand on the table, silencing everyone. Have any of you been listening? There is no diplomacy with genocide. The Corex don't negotiate, they destroy. But Admiral, said the Canadian representative, even if we wanted to fight, how could we possibly defeat an empire with thousands of ships? Admiral Sunho smiled for the first time during the meeting. Because we have something they don't expect. We're from a death world. He activated another display showing footage from Wu Jin and Taehoon's escape. Two humans with no weapons and no training in alien technology defeated Corex security and stole one of their ships. They survived torture methods that would kill most galactic species. The Corex are used to fighting other civilized species, Captain Jinho added. Species that evolved on peaceful worlds like the Villani. They've never fought anyone like us. Dr. Minji stepped forward. I've analyzed Corex military tactics based on their attack patterns. They rely on overwhelming firepower and intimidation. They expect their enemies to surrender quickly when faced with superior technology. But humans don't surrender easily, Admiral Sunho said. We've been fighting each other on a hostile planet for our entire history. We know how to adapt, how to use unconventional tactics, how to turn any environment into a weapon. The Japanese representative asked the question everyone was thinking. Do we even have enough ships to fight an interstellar war? Admiral Sunho's smile grew wider. Actually, yes. For the past 20 years, Earth's governments have been secretly building a deep space fleet. We called it Project Horizon, preparation for eventual expansion to other star systems. A new display showed images of massive shipyards hidden throughout the solar system. Huge vessels were under construction. warships designed for battles that Earth had never expected to fight. "We have over 3,000 ships ready for deployment," Admiral Sunho said, "including 12 Eclipse-class dreadnoughts that were designed to be the most powerful warships ever built." "Why haven't we heard about this before?" demanded the German representative. Defense Minister Hayun answered, "Because we never wanted to need them, but every military planner on Earth knew that eventually we would encounter other species in space. We wanted to be ready." "The question now," Admiral Sunho said, "is whether we wait for the Corex to find us or whether we go to them first." The vote was closer than anyone expected. Some representatives argued for building Earth's defenses and hoping for the best. Others pointed out that hiding was impossible in the long term. In the end, it was the footage of the destroyed Villani refugee ship that convinced them. The image of innocent families being murdered simply for refusing to help with genocide was something that no human could accept. "All in favor of authorizing military action against the Corex Empire?" Hands went up around the table. Not all of them, but enough. Defense Minister Hayun announced the result. By a vote of 67 to 43, the United Earth Defense Council authorizes Admiral Sunho to mobilize the fleet and take military action to stop Corex expansion. Admiral Sunho saluted. "Thank you. I won't let you down." As the representatives filed out of the meeting room, many of them looked worried. They had just committed humanity to its first interstellar war against an enemy that had conquered half the galaxy. But Admiral Sunho was not worried. He had studied human military history, from ancient battles with swords and spears to modern conflicts with nuclear weapons. Humans had one advantage that no other species in the galaxy possessed. They had learned how to fight by fighting each other on the most dangerous planet in the known universe. The Corex were about to learn why that mattered. The Luna shipyards had never seen activity like this before. What had once been a quiet research station was now the bustling center of the largest military operation in human history. Ships that had been hidden in secret construction bays for years were finally being revealed to the world. Admiral Sunho stood on the observation deck of the command station, watching as the last of the Eclipse-class dreadnoughts emerged from its hidden berth. The ship was massive, over 2 kilometers long and bristling with weapons that had never been tested in real combat. "Impressive, isn't it?" said Chief Engineer Kyung-min as she joined him at the window. She was a small woman with grease-stained coveralls and tired eyes. For the past 3 weeks, she had been working 18-hour days to prepare the fleet for war. "How many ships do we have ready for deployment?" Admiral Sunho asked. 3,047, Kyung-min replied, consulting her datapad. 12 Eclipse-class dreadnoughts, 200 heavy cruisers, 800 destroyers, and the rest are support vessels, transports, and medical ships. Admiral Sunho nodded. It was an impressive fleet by human standards, but he wondered if it would be enough against an empire that had conquered thousands of worlds. What about the new weapon systems? Kyung-min smiled for the first time in weeks. That's where things get interesting. We've been studying the Corex technology that Wu Jin and Tae-hoon brought back. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons and conventional missiles. But they've never encountered kinetic weapons like ours. We've modified our railguns to fire projectiles at 90% of light speed. Their shields might as well be made of paper. Captain Jinho approached them, wearing a new uniform with the rank insignia of Commodore. Admiral Sunho had promoted him to lead the advanced reconnaissance force. "Admiral," Jinho said, saluting, "the advance fleet is ready for departure. Yuna has our communication systems synchronized with the main fleet, and Minji has briefed all ship commanders on Korek's tactics. Good, Admiral Sunho said. What's the mood among the crews? Jinho smiled. Eager. A lot of these people joined the Space Navy hoping to explore the galaxy. They never expected to be going to war, but when they learned what the Koreks have been doing to other species, they want to fight, Admiral Sunho finished. Yes, sir, especially after seeing those recordings from Ashkara. The three of them watched as thousands of crew members moved between the ships, making final preparations. These were men and women from every nation on Earth, working together with a unity that would have been impossible just a few months ago. Admiral, Kyungmin said, there's something else you should know about the modifications we've made. What? Is it? We've been thinking about the Korek's weakness for environmental warfare. They've evolved on worlds with controlled climates, so we've equipped every ship with atmospheric manipulation systems. Admiral Sunho raised an eyebrow. Explain. We can alter the environment inside enemy ships, change the temperature, humidity, air pressure, even the chemical composition of their atmosphere. The Koreks are used to perfect conditions. We can turn their own ships into hostile environments. Brilliant, Admiral Sunho said. What else? Psychological warfare systems, Jinho added. Minji developed a program that can hack into Korek's communication networks and bombard them with images and sounds designed to cause panic. Things like recordings of humans surviving their torture methods, or footage of our cities recovering from natural disasters. The idea is to make them understand that they're not fighting a normal species, Kyungmin explained. We want them to be afraid of us before we even start shooting. Admiral Sunho was impressed. His people were thinking like humans, using every advantage they could find, no matter how unconventional. Sir, came a voice from behind them. They turned to see Commander Yuna approaching with a communication device. What is it, Commander? We're receiving a transmission from Earth Command. They want to speak with you privately. Admiral Sunho took the device and walked to a quiet corner of the observation deck. The face of Defense Minister Heian appeared on the small screen. Admiral, I wanted to speak with you before the fleet departs. Are you certain we're ready for this? As ready as we can be, Minister. Our people are well-trained and highly motivated. That's not what I'm worried about, Heian said. Admiral, we're about to start a war with an empire that has survived for over 1,000 years. What if we lose? Admiral Sunho considered the question carefully. Minister, I've studied every major war in human history. We've faced overwhelming odds before. The difference is that this time, we're not fighting other humans. We're fighting an enemy that doesn't understand what humans are capable of. Explain. The Koreks think that superior technology automatically means victory. They've never fought an enemy that adapts as quickly as we do. They've never faced psychological warfare or environmental manipulation or the kind of creative tactics that humans develop when we're desperate. And you think that will be enough? Admiral Sunho looked out at the massive fleet preparing for departure. Minister, the Koreks made a fundamental mistake. They let us see what they do to innocent people. They showed us their true nature. Now they're going to learn what happens when you threaten human civilians. The crews know they might not come. Home, Heian said quietly. Yes, and they're going anyway, because that's what humans do when we see genocide happening. We stop it. The transmission ended, and Admiral Sunho returned to the observation deck. The final preparations were almost complete. Thousands of crew members were boarding their ships, carrying with them the hopes and fears of an entire species. Commodore. Jinho, Admiral Sunho said. Are your advanced scouts ready? Yes, sir. We'll jump to Korek space and begin surveillance operations. Once we've identified their main fleet positions, we'll signal for the main attack. Commander Yuna, are all communication systems operational? Yes, Admiral. We can maintain contact across multiple star systems simultaneously. Chief Engineer Kyung-min, are the new weapon systems fully tested? As tested as we can make them without actually shooting at Korax ships, sir. Admiral Sunho nodded and activated the fleet-wide communication system. His voice would now be heard on every ship in the massive armada. Attention all vessels. This is Admiral Sunho. In 1 hour, we will depart for Korax space to begin the first interstellar war in human history. The shipyards fell silent as thousands of people listened to his words. We are not going to conquer territory or seek revenge. We are going to stop genocide. We are going to protect innocent species who cannot protect themselves. We are going to show the galaxy that bullies and murderers will not be tolerated. The enemy thinks we are weak because we come from a single world. They think our compassion makes us vulnerable. They are about to learn that they have made the greatest mistake in their empire's history. We are humans. We are from Earth. We do not surrender. We do not abandon our friends, and we do not let innocent people die while we have the power to save them. All ships, prepare for departure. Today we take our first step into the larger galaxy. Let's make sure it's a step that every species will remember. The cheers that erupted from 3,000 ships could be heard even in the vacuum of space. Humanity was going to war, and for the first time in their history they were fighting for someone else's freedom. The Korax fortress world of Grimhold had never been attacked in its 300-year history. Built into a massive asteroid, it was considered one of the most secure military installations in the Empire. Its commanders were so confident in their defenses that they barely bothered to scan for approaching enemies. That confidence proved to be their downfall. Commodore Jinho's advance fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Grimhold system. 12 ships against a fortress that housed 50,000 Korax soldiers and a fleet of 200 warships. Are you sure about this plan? Commander Yuna asked from her station on the bridge of Jinho's flagship. It's not about winning the battle, Jinho replied. It's about sending a message. The human ships were invisible to Korax sensors, thanks to stealth technology that was far more advanced than anything the Empire had encountered before. While the Korax had focused on building bigger weapons, humans had learned the value of not being seen. All ships, begin Phase 1, Jinho ordered. The first attack came from inside the Korax computer networks. Yuna and her team had been studying Korax technology for weeks, looking for weaknesses. What they found surprised them. The Korax used incredibly advanced computers, but they had no concept of cybersecurity. Their systems are completely open, Yuna reported. It's like they've never heard of computer viruses or hacking. Makes sense, said Dr. Minji from her science station. A species that conquers others through brute force wouldn't expect enemies to attack their information systems. Within minutes, Yuna had taken control of Grimhold's communication networks, power grid, and even the life support systems on their ships. The Korax suddenly found themselves unable to contact each other or coordinate their defenses. Phase 2, Jinho ordered. This was Chief Engineer Kyung-min's contribution to the battle plan. She had developed what she called Project Wrathfall, modified asteroid mining charges that could create devastating kinetic impacts. The human ships launched hundreds of small projectiles toward Grimhold. To Korax sensors, they looked like space debris, pieces of rock and metal that were too small to be threats. The projectiles struck Grimhold's outer defenses at 90% of light speed. The kinetic energy was so enormous that entire sections of the fortress simply vaporized. Shield generators that could stop any energy weapon were useless against chunks of metal moving at near light speed. Direct hits on defensive platforms 7, 12, and 18, reported Wu Jin from the tactical station. Their outer shield network is down, but the real psychological warfare was just beginning. Phase 3, Jinho said quietly. Every communication device on every Corex ship suddenly activated at once, broadcasting the same message. It was a recording of the Villani refugee ship being destroyed, played over and over again. But mixed in with the footage were images that no Corex had ever seen before. Pictures of humans surviving in environments that would kill any other species. Videos of human soldiers continuing to fight even after being wounded. Recordings of human cities being destroyed by earthquakes and hurricanes only to be rebuilt stronger than before. Attention. Corex forces, Jinho's voice echoed through every speaker on every ship. You have committed genocide against innocent species. You have murdered children. You have declared war on compassion itself. We are humans from the planet Earth. We are here to stop you. The reaction from the Corex forces was immediate and panicked. They had never heard of humans before, but the images they were seeing terrified them. These creatures looked small and weak, yet they were somehow surviving in conditions that would kill even Corex warriors. All ships, open fire, commanded the Corex base commander. But his ships couldn't target enemies they couldn't see, and their communication systems were still under human control. Phase 4, Jinho ordered. Now came the direct assault. The 12 human ships dropped their stealth fields and revealed themselves to the Corex defenders. They were outnumbered 16 to 1, but they had advantages that the enemy couldn't understand. The human ships moved in ways that no Corex vessel could match. They used gravity wells, asteroid fields, and even solar radiation as weapons. When Corex ships tried to pursue them into dangerous areas of space, the humans seemed to thrive in environments that damaged their enemies. How are they flying through that radiation field? Demanded the Corex commander. It should be destroying their ships. Their hulls are designed differently, his science officer replied. It's like they expect to fight in hostile environments. The battle became a lesson in human tactics. Instead of meeting the Corex in direct combat, the human ships led them into a deadly game of cat and mouse among the asteroids surrounding Grimhold. Corex ships were large and powerful, but they were designed for fighting in open space against enemies who fought honorably. They couldn't adapt to the constantly changing battlefield that the humans created. Sir, reported Wu Jin, Corex reinforcements are approaching from the outer system. How many? 50 ships. Jinho smiled. Perfect. Begin Phase 5. The reinforcements arrived to find their base under attack by ships they couldn't catch, led by creatures they couldn't understand. Worse, they found that their own communication networks were broadcasting propaganda designed to demoralize them. These humans, one Corex pilot reported, they're not fighting like any species we've ever encountered. What do you mean? They're using our own weapons against us. They hacked into Defense Platform 12 and turned its guns on our ships. They're making the asteroid field itself into a weapon. As the battle continued, something unexpected happened. The human tactics were so alien to Corex, thinking that some of their commanders began to panic. They were used to overwhelming enemies, with superior firepower, not fighting opponents who turned every disadvantage into an advantage. This is impossible, the base commander said. How can 12 small ships be defeating our entire fleet? His science officer had been studying the humans throughout the battle. Sir, I think I understand. These creatures evolved on what they Call a deathworld. Everything about them is designed for survival in hostile conditions. So they're not just fighting us. They're fighting the environment, the asteroids, the radiation, the gravity wells, and they're winning. They've turned this entire star system into their weapon. The final phase of the battle was almost anticlimactic. The surviving Corex ships tried to retreat, but found that the humans had anticipated this. Jinho's forces had seeded the systems, hyperspace exit points with mines. When the smoke cleared, the mighty fortress of Grimhold was a shattered ruin floating in space. Of the 200 Corex ships that had defended it, only 30 escaped to tell the tale. The 12 human ships had not lost a single vessel. "Mission accomplished," Jinho reported to Admiral Sunho. "Grimhold is neutralized. We're ready for Phase 6. Excellent work, Commodore. How are the crew holding up?" "Better than expected, sir. Turns out that fighting in asteroid fields and radiation zones is easier when you're from a planet that's been trying to kill you your entire life." As news of the victory spread through the Corex Empire, panic began to set in. An unknown species had just destroyed one of their most secure installations using tactics that no one understood. The humans had sent their message. They were not the weak species that the Corex expected. They were something far more dangerous. They were the products of a world that had taught them to survive anything, and they were just getting started. The throne world of Kraxos had been the center of the Corex Empire for 800 years. Its massive cities stretched across entire continents, and its orbital platforms could house millions of soldiers. Emperor Molthak had ruled from his Crystal Palace for 60 years, watching his empire grow larger with each conquered world. Now, as he stood on his balcony looking up at the stars, he could see the approaching human fleet. "Your Majesty," said his chief advisor, "perhaps we should consider negotiating with these humans." Emperor Molthak's 4 eyes blazed with anger. "The Corex Empire does not negotiate with primitive species. We have ruled this galaxy for centuries. We will not be defeated by creatures from a single backward world." "Your Majesty, they defeated our entire fleet at the Crimson Nebula. Grand Admiral Throckmar surrendered without—" "Throckmar was weak," the Emperor roared. "I have assembled the Imperial Guard, 50,000 of our finest warriors and our most powerful ships. These humans will learn what happens when they challenge the might of Kraxos." What Emperor Molthak didn't know was that Admiral Sunho had no intention of destroying his world. The human commander stood on the bridge of his flagship studying the massive planet below. Intelligence reports showed that billions of innocent Corex civilians lived on Kraxos, along with representatives from dozens of other species. "Admiral," reported Commander Yuna, "we're receiving communications from resistance groups throughout the planet. Many species want to help us, but they're afraid of reprisals against civilians." "What about the Corex population itself?" Admiral Sunho asked. Dr. Minji had been analyzing intercepted communications for weeks. "The civilian population is starting to panic. They're hearing reports about human victories, and many of them are questioning their government's propaganda about species superiority." "Sir," said Commodore Jinho, "long-range sensors show the Imperial Guard moving to intercept us. 50,000 ships." Admiral Sunho nodded. It was the largest force the Corex had ever assembled, and it was led by Emperor Molthak himself aboard the Imperial dreadnought Dominion of Stars. "All ships, implement Operation Mercy," Admiral Sunho ordered. Operation Mercy was unlike any military plan in human history. Instead of seeking to destroy the enemy, its goal was to end the war with as few casualties as possible while demonstrating the futility of continued resistance. "Phase 1, Admiral Sunho said. Commander Yuna activated the most sophisticated information warfare campaign ever designed. Every communication device on every ship in the Imperial Guard began broadcasting the same message, but this time it wasn't propaganda or psychological warfare. It was the truth. The broadcasts showed footage from liberated worlds, species that had been enslaved by the Corex for generations now living free. Videos of former Corex prisoners being treated in human medical facilities, recordings of surrender ceremonies where human officers treated captured Corex with dignity and respect. "What is this?" Emperor Molthak demanded as he watched the broadcasts. "Your Majesty," his communication officer said, "they're showing us what they've done to the worlds they've captured. Destroyed them, no doubt." "No, sir. They've freed them. The enslaved populations are governing themselves. The Corex colonists who surrendered are being allowed to stay if they agree to live peacefully." Emperor Molthak couldn't believe what he was seeing. In his experience, conquest meant destruction, enslavement, or death. The idea that victors might treat the defeated with mercy was completely alien to his thinking. Phase 2. Admiral Sunho ordered. This demonstration was Chief Engineer Kyung Min's idea. The human fleet targeted Kraxos's moon, a lifeless chunk of rock that served no purpose except to light the planet's night sky. All ships, kinetic bombardment of target Luna 7, the day. Concentrated firepower of 3,000 human ships struck the moon simultaneously. The kinetic energy was so enormous that the entire moon simply disappeared. One moment it was there, the next moment there was nothing but a cloud of rapidly expanding dust. The effect on the Imperial Guard was immediate and terrifying. Emperor Molthak watched his world's moon vanish in an instant and suddenly understood the true power of the human fleet. "Your Majesty," his tactical officer said quietly, "if they had targeted our planet instead of the moon." "I know," the Emperor said. For the first time in his life, Molthak felt fear. Phase 3, Admiral Sunho ordered. Now came the most important part of the operation. Admiral Sunho activated the fleet-wide communication system and addressed the Imperial Guard directly. "Emperor Molthak, I am Admiral Sunho of the United Earth Defense Force. You have just seen what our weapons can do. We could have targeted your palace, your cities, or your fleet. Instead, we destroyed an empty moon." "What do you want?" Emperor Molthak asked. "The same thing we've wanted from the beginning. An end to genocide. An end to the enslavement of innocent species. And justice for the crimes your empire has committed. And if I refuse?" Admiral Sunho's voice was calm but firm. "Then we will remove you from power and install a government that will respect the rights of all species. But we would prefer to do this peacefully." Emperor Molthak looked around his bridge. His officers were watching him, waiting for orders. But what orders could he give? The humans had just demonstrated that they could destroy his entire world with ease, yet they had chosen to show mercy. "What are your terms?" he asked finally. "Complete disarmament of your military. Reparations to the species you have enslaved or destroyed, war crimes trials for those responsible for genocide, and the establishment of a new galactic government based on equality and justice. And what happens to the Corex people? Those who agree to live peacefully will be allowed to remain on their worlds. Those who commit crimes will face trial. But we have no interest in destroying your species or seeking revenge." Emperor Molthak was silent for several minutes. Around his throne, world, the Imperial Guard waited for his decision. On thousands of ships, Corex soldiers and officers listened to their emperor's choice. Finally, Molthak activated his communication system. All ships of the Imperial Guard, stand down. I surrender. The silence that followed was deafening. The Corex Empire, which had ruled through fear and violence for over 1,000 years, had just been defeated by a species that chose mercy over vengeance. Your Majesty made the right choice, Admiral Sunho said. Now let's work together to build something better. 6 months later, Commodore Jinho stood in the great assembly hall on Ashkara, watching representatives from dozens of species sign the charter for the Galactic Defense Coalition. Thane Zilara, now the elected president of the Free Villani government, was addressing the gathering. 6 months ago, we were facing extinction, Thane Zilara said, his crystal skin glowing with hope. Today, we stand as equals among the stars, united in our commitment to peace and justice. Admiral Sunho, now the supreme commander of the coalition's peacekeeping force, was sitting with the human delegation. The war had changed him. He looked older but also more at peace. It's hard to believe it's over, Commander Yuna said as she joined Jinho. It's not over, Jinho replied. It's just beginning. He was right. Even as they celebrated the end of the Corex Empire, long-range sensors were detecting new signals from the galactic rim. Other species were calling for help against unknown threats. Pirates, slavers, and petty dictators were all discovering that the galaxy now had protectors. Dr. Minji approached them with a data pad. Admiral Sunho wants to see you, Commodore. We've received another distress signal. Jinho smiled. From where? The Andromeda Galaxy. Apparently, word of what we did here has spread further than we thought. As they walked toward the Admiral's office, Jinho reflected on how much had changed. Humanity had set out to explore the stars and found themselves protecting an entire galaxy. They had started as a single species from one world and become the foundation of a vast alliance dedicated to peace. Sir, Admiral Sunho said as they entered his office, I have a new mission for you. Another rescue operation? Something like that. There's a species in the Vega system that's being threatened by raiders. They're not strong enough to defend themselves, but they have knowledge that could help us establish farming colonies on dead worlds. Jinho nodded. It was the same pattern that had started with the Villani. Help those who needed it, and build something better together. When do we leave? Tomorrow. And Jinho? Admiral Sunho smiled. Take the new Eclipse-class ships. I have a feeling we're going to be very busy. As the Harmony's Edge prepared for another mission, Yuna detected a familiar signal pattern. It was faint, coming from deep space, but it had the same mathematical structure as the Villani distress call that had started everything. Another species asking for help, she reported. Then we'd better get moving, Jinho said. We have a galaxy to protect. The human fleet departed Ashkara under a sky filled with stars. Each point of light represented worlds that were now free, species that could live without fear, and civilizations that had learned that the universe contained more than just predators and prey. It contained protectors, and those protectors were just getting started.